So welcome to our YouTube channel. Dr. Harry Benjamin is the name. We're grateful and excited to be on here. The Wealth Creation Project is the name of our movement. We're literally helping people from different walks of life to have a greater life experience by eliminating some of the roadblocks, obstacles, hindrances that are interfering with us being able to really have the life that we desire to live, as opposed to the life that the world has conditioned us to accept. So we're here to have that conversation, and a couple of my friends, usually we join up together on a Sunday. And also we're building an organization that allows for us to achieve financial freedom and literally liberate ourselves from the older ways of working for money to have the skill set of using our technology to earn money. So those are some of the things that we're working on. There are other areas as well. As a great movement that we're building. So today we're going to talk about, last week we spoke about the mind. We spoke about what the mind is. And we dove deep into that in our terms of understanding what is the mind. And we had a very in-depth discussion about it and understanding that the mind is a set of programs. It is literally something that we have and not something that we are. A lot of us sometimes misinterpret it to believe that, well, we are the mind, and also a lot of us are hypnotized into allowing the mind to think as us. We're living in a hypnotic spell, so to speak, in believing that the way the mind works and the way it functions is who we are. So whenever the mind spits up a thought or suggests something to us, we say, this is what I believe, this is what I think, this is how I see it, this is my perspective, and which is fine. However, what tends to happen is that it's a program, and these perceptions, these points of views, these beliefs are inherited. We came up in the world and we were born into the world through parents. And these parents had certain beliefs that they inherited from the ones they had. The culture at the time that you were born and wherever on the planet you were born into also carries certain beliefs, certain ideas, certain concepts as well that we were born into. So our mind ended up being programmed by everything that was going on when we came up in school. Whatever our teacher said, whatever that was saying by the other children, those became beliefs that we inherited. And those ways of growing up helped to shape our personalities. So we ended up with a set of personalities. We ended up with a set of beliefs, or perspectives and points of views that were all inherited when we were growing up as children and have all been programmed into our mind. So for those of us who have become physical adults, from a body standpoint, you're starting to realize that there's certain behaviors that we have that sometimes are not aligned with the best outcome. Sometimes we do things that we do not even want to do. Sometimes we end up doing things we regret doing and wish we hadn't done them, but they were done already. And these are because of subconscious patterns that we have carrying within us. It reminds us of a statement from a great friend of mine, Yeshua ben Joseph, commonly called Jesus the Christ. And he said that, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. So a lot of human beings live under this hypnotic spell of not knowing what they're doing, and as a result, acting out from a place of what's happening subconsciously and unaware of these patterns that are driving our behavior. So the mind is a set of programs. The mind is not our identity, but some of us are under a hypnotic spell, believing that it is. So how do we renew the mind so that the mind can function in a way that is aligned with our highest and best self, our highest and best intentions? And that's what this particular discussion is about today. How can we renew the mind? So it's going to be more about, just dishing out this information today, and not so much a dialogue as we're normally used to, or a panel of us, chopping it up, so to speak, right? Today, I'm just going to dish out the information. So here's the deal. The mind, as we said, is a set of programs. If you look on it like this is you, and then this is your mind, right? So you have your mind right here. And it has these programs running constantly and spitting out, churning out thoughts. And these thoughts that are being churned out, these thoughts sometimes are thoughts of anger, sometimes jealousy, sometimes, being upset, or sometimes they're good ideas. Okay, you could do this, you could try this, you could make this, you could solve that. Sometimes those ideas are useful. You could become a very successful individual if you do this. So sometimes those ideas are useful, but oftentimes they're not useful. They're not aligned with our highest and best self. So as a result of this, what we have to do is that first, you have to realize that mind is just a set of programs. And with the practice of silent meditation, which is something I advocate for in a big wave. We're not doing that. We're spinning our wheels. We're working really hard and not getting anywhere. So we need to focus first on getting the silent meditation practice going, because what it does, it starts to allow for you to do what's called expand your awareness. As your awareness starts to expand, which is the right way to say it, is that you start to change your perception. So as your perceptual window starts to expand and starts to change, what happens is this: your perception changes. As your perception changes and it expands, you start to see what was there before. So the mind that's there running with all of these programs, you now start to have an expanded awareness. With the expanded awareness of seeing what's inside of the mind, you can then start to change the programs in the mind. Because if you do not realize that you are different from your mind is going to be running the show. And your mind, because it's a set of programs, what's running the show? It's the past that's masquerading as the present that's really running the show in our lives, if we do not recognize that the mind is a set of programs. Because the mind has programs in it based on what happened to us in the past. So if we're going to have a better future, we're going to have to renew the mind. So we're going to have to change the programming that's going on in the mind if we want the mind to help us to achieve a different future. If not, it's running anyway, it's subconscious, it's directing the things that we think, it's directing the things that we say, and ultimately the actions and the deeds that we accomplished. So if we want a changed life, some of us have heard the statement before: a life is transformed by the renewal of our mind, right? Put a one in the chat, Mark, if you've heard that before. A life is transformed by the renewal of our mind. So if we're not renewing the mind, our life cannot change, right? It's not going to change if you and I do not invest the time and energy to renew the mind, right? And I wouldn't put the mind as in here, because this is the brain, but the mind is a subconscious, very massive entity that has a lot of different programs coming up, right? A lot of different programs coming up. So here's what we need to do. What we need to do is to get into the process of renewing the mind, right? Renewing the mind. And to renew the mind, the life will transform if the mind is renewed. So our life will transform if we renew our mind. If we do not renew our mind, life won't transform. So we have to understand that. So then we have to recognize, okay, so what can I do to renew the mind in light of the fact that if I'm not renewing the mind, my life won't change. All right, so one of the things that you can do, one of the simplest strategies are called affirmations. The first set of affirmations that I would encourage you to embrace are affirmations that realign you with the truth of ourselves. The core and the center of our being is that we're light. I am light. You could say, I am light. You could say that as one of your affirmations to remind yourself that you're a being of light and not just a body and a mind, right? You have a body, you have a mind, but that's not who we really are. We are light. We're beings of light. We're beings of light that came from our creator, right? I'm the light that lights up every man and every woman that comes into this world, right? So you are the light that lights up every man, every woman that has ever come into this world. So that's the light that we are. So understanding that I am light is one great affirmation. Then you could have other affirmations like I am love. Love is another quality of our being. Our creator is love, one of the synonyms that we've used to define our creator over the years. So if you then say I am love, you're now reminding yourself that I am love, I am love, I am light, I am love. Another quality of our creator is peace. Peace is inherent in our being. It's natural. It's a natural state. If you've ever listened to any of my previous talks about that, you'd hear that peace is natural. Peace and joy are natural. So you could say, I am light, I am love, I am peace, I am joy, I am intelligence, I am wisdom, I am beauty. So once you've started to remind yourself of these through affirmations, you're now starting to extricate and imbue into the mind thoughts that the mind is going to now start to share with you. So your mind is going to start to tell you stuff, right? It's going to start to speak back to you the things that you have programmed into it. So if you do not program stuff into the mind, what happens is that it's just going to push things back in your direction that came from where? What we call the past. Who programmed the mind in the past? The people around us, the schools that we went to, the culture that we grew up in. So your mind is constantly giving you thoughts based on what took place when we were young and didn't have a chance to say, yes, I like this idea. No, I do not like that idea. So what we have to now do is to imbue and infuse into our mind thoughts that we want our mind to be telling us, because it's running the show anyway. So as we're doing that and infusing this into the mind, we're speaking into the mind, I am love, I am peace, I am joy, I am light. And as we're doing this, and we're doing this more and more, then we're going to end up having the mind now speaking back to us and giving us thoughts that are aligned with our true nature. In addition to that, you now start to program the mind to do what it is that you want the mind to do, what it is that you may want the mind to fulfill. Do you want the mind to work in concert with you to build an organization? Do you want your mind to work in concert with you to, get you a home, get you a nice car, put your children through better schools, get yourself a better vocation, a better job, a better business? No, then you start to program into the mind affirmations that you want the mind to go about creating for you and helping you to create. So you could say to the mind, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have a home in this place at this date for this value, with this type of kitchen, this in the backyard, this in the number of garages for cars, and whatever it is that you want to have happen. You're free to now infuse into the mind what it is that you want the mind to do. So we have to do this over and over and over and over and over and over again for the mind to be able to be imputed with what it is that you and I want, right? So you and I now are giving the mind an instruction as to what it is that you want the mind to do. So you have to then give the mind clear instructions on what you want the mind to do. That's a part of renewing the mind. So a couple of things that we're going to have to do if your mind is going to be renewed successfully. One, meditation. You have to meditate. When you meditate over time, you expand your perception, which means you're expanding your perception of your awareness. You're now becoming aware that you have a mind. You become aware that the body is in your awareness. You start to become aware that you are awareness itself over time. So as you practice meditation, then you start to see the thoughts coming up out of your mind. And when you start to see that the thoughts are being spun out into your awareness, you're no longer kind of worried. You're no longer anxious, because you're now seeing that the thoughts are just jumping up out of your mind. And it gives you a sense of power over those thoughts now. You're no longer worried. You're no longer anxious, because the thoughts are spinning out of the mind, and you're now being able to see them. And now we can change them. We can literally make changes. We're going to be able to what's called transmute these thoughts that are spinning out from the mind. And you and I will now have the power to be able to change them. But before you could do that, you have to meditate. You have to practice your meditation. And if you practice your meditation and consistently do it, after a while, you're going to see the content coming up from the mind. As you start to see the content coming up from your mind, you're going to start to realize, whoa, man, I have some thoughts coming up from my mind. I don't like these thoughts. These are not the thoughts that these are not thoughts that I want to have, going on in my mind. And you're going to start to see that, and then you're going to start to get dominion. You're going to start to have control. And as you have control over these thoughts that are spinning out from the mind, what's going to happen? You're now going to be able to choose what you want to say. You're not going to be running on automatic pilot anymore. Somebody will say something to you. You realize that the mind has a reaction to it. Somebody says something rude. The mind's trying to tell you something rude to say back to them to match what they did. You're now going to have the power to say, no, I do not want to say that. And the reason why we're not going to say that is because the things that we put out of our mouth have a return to sender address. So if we say something that we do not want to experience, it's coming back to us anyway. So what we have to do is to wake up and become more mature. And to do that, it means now that we are eliminating some of these, previously held points of views and perspectives. So we're working to fix that. All right. So clean up the mind. Clean up the mind. How to clean up the mind? Meditation. Meditation allows for us to see the content of the mind. Once we start to see the content of the mind, what starts to happen is that it gives you that power over choice of what to say and what not to say. This is a beautiful space to live from and live within, because what it does now is that it starts to give you the opportunity to change the content of what is in the mind. And earlier on, I said a life is transformed by the renewal of our mind. So if we're not renewing the mind, our life won't change. Our life changes based on what is happening in the mind. If we renew the mind, the life can transform. If we do not renew the mind, then we're going to live our life based on what was happening to us in the past. So we have to renew the mind, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a choice. It's something that if you do not take time to infuse into your mind the thoughts you want your mind to run itself by, then you're going to end up with a mind that was infused by the culture around us. It was infused by the people around us, our parents, what's going on in our general society. When you look at our society is constantly trying to get us to buy this, to buy that, trying to get us to be consumers. That's what happens in the world. So if we want a different life, we have to be intentional. We have to be very direct about infusing our mind with the information that we want our mind to be run on. If not, it's going to be run by what we picked up as children based on what was happening around us, conversations that may not have been in your best interest. It's going to be infused by what's happening in our society. Our society is a society of consumerism and materialism. So it's always trying to get us to buy the next thing and to get something to make us happy. So we always are living life in a hamster wheel of trying to get something, believing those things are going to make us okay at some point when we're okay from the get-go, but we do not know this. And we're not living from a higher space of being able to come into the world and deliver our gifts and our talents and our capacities because our mind has been hijacked by the world. We are living under this hypnosis of believing that the mind is us, believing that we are, just a human being waiting to die, or trying our best to avoid something negative from happening to us. So once we start to live from this higher plane, we are able to change the content of what's in our mind and change the trajectory and the way our life unfolds. But we cannot do that, ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot have that happen if you don't have expanded awareness. You have to expand your perceptual window of your awareness. Your awareness is already massive, it's infinite. But the thing is that our window that we look through is narrow. So we're looking through a narrow perceptual window. And what we have to do is expand that window. And when we expand that window of perception, what starts to happen is that you could see more of what was already there. And once you could start to see more of what is already there, then you can make changes. So to change the mind and the programs running in the mind, we have to first be expanding our awareness through meditation. Once you have done that, then you're going to start to see that the mind has thoughts running in it. And it's just churning out thoughts that were inherited from our parents, our culture, our school system, and what's going on in our general society. And then once you've started seeing that, then you could start to infuse in it through affirmations what you want your mind to be using as programs to run your life. Then you could start to say things like, I am light, I am love, I am peace, I am joy, I am wisdom, I'm intelligence, I'm brilliant, I'm amazing, I'm powerful. And you say these affirmations to your mind so that your mind can start to tell you this, because the mind oftentimes has things in it like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not as good as that one over there. Look at what happened to me, look at what happened to this one. Don't bother to try again, because if you try again, you're going to get hurt. Don't go for this big goal. Look at what happened the last time. So the mind is always trying to tell us these things that are keeping us back. So we have to infuse into the mind the things that we want it to tell us. I'm a champion, I'm a winner, I'm successful. Everything that I do always turns out well. So we have to change the programs in our mind. And how we're going to do that is through affirmations. So you have to have a set of affirmations, a set of cards that you're going to read to yourself, right, every day, as what it is that you want your mind now to have as programs running in it, so that those become your new set of programs that run the mind, not what we inherited in the past, because what we inherited in the past is not serving us to our best interest. So to change it, we have to have our affirmations. So I have a bunch of cards that I have affirmed. At one point in my office, at my car dealership in Jamaica, I got a big whiteboard, and I wrote on it affirmations, different one. I am love, I am light, I am joy, I am peace. When I learned this, and it's become infused into my mind. So now I'm not being told those thoughts that hold me back. I at this stage, I don't have the thoughts that are restricting and constricting me in that way anymore. But one of the things I realized I was not doing with my mind, and it just dawned on me when I was rereading Think and Grow Rich recently, just a few weeks ago, I said, oh man, I couldn't believe I was sabotaging myself that way, but it was because I had some self-conscious pattern of thinking in my mind that was driving my behavior, that was resulting in me not doing this. All right. And all of us have these different subconscious patterns that are holding us back from living the way we really want to live. And when I realized it, man, I made a switch like right away. We have to, ladies and gentlemen, give our mind clear instructions on what you want it to do. That's a part of renewing the mind. Every day, just like brushing our teeth or putting on our clothes and getting ready for the day, you have to, ladies and gentlemen, write out a set of instructions and give it to your mind. Almost like you're writing a letter to your mind and say to your mind, go and do this for me, go and do that for me, go and do this, go and build that, go and bring these people to come over here and join this group that we're a part of. We have to give the mind those instructions. If you're not giving the mind those instructions, what's happening is that you're spinning your wheels, because your mind is running anyway a set of programs that came from the past. Some of the stuff that happened to us in childhood, we're not even aware of some of the stuff that was going on as children. So we have to then take back our mind from this hypnotic spell that is under based on the world's way of how we were cultured. And then once we take our mind back, what we now have to do is to program it the way we want it to be run, so that it has a set of programs that are associated with what we really want for ourselves. So then you have to have a set of instructions. What is it that you want your mind to do? Because if you're not programming it, it's being programmed by the world anyway. So we have to ensure that we're guardians of our minds. It says, you know, Solomon told us this thousands of years ago. Interestingly, it's not like it's new stuff. He said that you should guard your mind with all your strength and your might, because out of it proceed the issues of life. Very simply and clearly said in Proverbs. And a lot of us hear this and we repeat it, but we have not been doing it. So we have to become guardians. We have to guard our mind. We have to ensure that we're putting into our mind what it is that we want to see our mind do, and not just run it, you know, and allow it to run on its own like that. Right? We have to really be very focused on this, because this is very key to the quality of how we're going to live our lives and how we're going to achieve our dreams and our goals and our aspirations and whatever it is that's important to us. And that's a part of renewing the mind. If we do not renew the mind, the life cannot be transformed. If we renew the mind, a life is transformed. A life is transformed by the renewal of our minds. So we have to invest the time and energy to renew the mind. One way to renew the mind is to start with our silent meditation. Get that going, right? And then as we're doing it, affirmation. So those two practices are the two most important practices. The spiritual study, the high-minded conversations, the life visioning, you know, the selfless service and the fellowship. Those other 5 practices are important as well. But to renew the mind, it has to be done through silent meditation, becoming aware that the mind is not you, becoming aware that the mind is a set of programs, starting to observe the thoughts that are churning out from the mind over and over again. And as you start to see those thoughts, observing them gives you the power to change them. Once you start to see certain thoughts, say, wow, this was in my, wow, that was in my mind. And you'll start to see them. And as they're coming up, you're going to have expanded awareness and the power to see what's coming up. And as you're seeing what's coming up, you could change what's coming up into a higher thought. And that's what happens with transmutation. Transmutation is like ice becoming water, water becoming gas. That's transmutation. Same liquid, same water. Water can be ice, water can be liquid, water can be gas. So water can have 3 different phases. And so it is with our thoughts. We can transmute them from a lower way of being to a higher way of being. And that happens through observation, right? There's an experiment done called the observer's effect, where in an observer, I won't go into the experiment right now, but the bottom line is that through the observer effect, we change things at a subatomic level. So we're going to be able to change the content of what's happening in our subconscious mind, but we cannot change it if we're not observing it. Observation comes through expanded awareness. Expanded awareness happens through meditation. So as we meditate more and more and become still, become silent, we start to see the content of our mind. As we start to see the content of our mind, we start to elevate ourselves. As we elevate ourselves and see what's going on in the mind, then we're going to be able to start to make changes. In addition to that, you need a set of affirmations. You have clearly written instructions, what it is that you want your mind to receive. Some of the affirmations that are important to remind ourselves of the truth of our being I am light, I am love, I am joy, I am peace, I am wisdom, I am intelligence, I am strong, I am whole, I'm perfect, I'm complete, I have everything that I need, everything that I do works so well, everything that I do works to my benefit. So once we're doing all of that, then those affirmations are aligned with the truth of ourselves. So with that type of those affirmations, then another set of affirmations that we need is to give our mind clear instructions on what it is to do. The mind is just a set of programs and it doesn't know what it's doing. It doesn't know what it's doing unless it gets instructions. So we have to give it clear instructions on what it is that we want it to do for it to go out and do the things that are important to us, that you would want to have your mind do to bring about the life experiences that you want. So with that said, that's our conversation for today. As I said, it was more sharing with you this as opposed to a dialogue that we generally have and have individuals and so forth. But we could take some comments right now, from anybody who wants to jump in and say something, in reference to renewing the mind. How do you renew the mind? That was the topic today. How do you renew the mind? Anyone? Mark, you want to jump in? Dr. Copeland, Ngozi over there in Abuja, and Kadeen. I think Kadeen, that name sounds like you're from Trinidad. But anyone who wants to jump in and say something, any comments? Go ahead, Mark.
Excellent morning, Dr. Benjamin. Excellent morning to everyone around the globe, wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So yes, I quite agree with your information about the mind, and the mind is very powerful, and we do indeed need to control it. And even more so, we need to give the instructions to that subconscious mind. We need to be able to meditate and learn to meditate properly so that we could have that connection with the mind. And we must be clear on what it is we are about, what it is we want, and we must be able to set it out clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I know you're on it, Mark. I know you're on it. All right. Anyone? Go ahead, Dr. Copeland.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever we are. It's so wonderful to be here with you this morning. And as I further reflect on what you have said, Dr. Harry, it is a process that we have to do daily, and sometimes several times for the day, because for me, it is being fed with, I don't want to call it rubbish or nonsense, but it is, it's like an antenna picking up whatever is coming through the airwaves, the television, whatever it is that we're reading, especially if it's about local, regional, and international affairs. And one can find him or herself feeling fearful or apprehensive. And it's because of what it is that we're taking in. So we have to, yes, it's a constant process, renewing the mind, refocusing, and keeping our eyes on those things that really matter in terms of our soul's growth. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Very well said, Doc. I love it. Multiple times per day. It is constant. We are always praying. We're always praying. Every word that's coming from our tongue is a prayer. Right? Either we're praying something that we want, or we're praying about something that we do not want. But we're always praying. So constantly renewing the mind is something that should just become a part of our nature. That we're always paying attention to what it is that we're allowing to go into our mind, because it's going to end up directing our behavior and ultimately directing the way we live and the quality of our life. So thank you for that. Very well said. Anyone else wants to jump in before we go ahead and close? All right, so our normal way of closing, and this is just anchored going forward. We say, I bless you and your life is magnificent. We unmute ourselves, look for names on the list of names here, and then you say, I bless you, Mark, and your life is magnificent. If you could unmute, if you can't, type it in the chat, because I know sometimes people are in different places that do not allow for them. But if you can, please go ahead and unmute and say, I bless you and your life is
I
magnificent.
bless you, Dr.
I bless you,
Copeland,
Mark, and your life
and
is
your life
magnificent.
is
I bless you,
magnificent.
Dr. Copeland, and your life is
I
magnificent.
bless
I bless
you,
you,
Dr.
Ngozi, and your life
Benjamin, and
is
your life is
magnificent. Bless
magnificent.
you, Kadeen, and
I
your life
bless
is
you, Kadeen, and your life is magnificent.
I bless you, Mark, and your life is magnificent. I bless you, Dr.
Awesome,
Harry.
awesome.
Your life is magnificent. Kadeen
Thank you.
and
I bless
Ngozi,
you and
I bless
Susie.
you. Your life is
I bless you,
magnificent.
Dr. Mark. I bless you, Sonia. I bless everyone on this chat, and your lives are magnificent.
Awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. All right. Thank you very much for showing up, guys. Thank you for the time we invested with each other. I love and appreciate you all, and we'll see you guys soon. All right. Bye-bye.